What if a woman killed men and then retired to go live in peace by herself and never talk to anybody ever again? That's not what happened here. Welcome back to the Ink Drinkers Anonymous Book Club, where I read a bunch so you don't have to unless you want to, in which case let's discuss They Never Learn by Layne Fargo. Apparently in this universe, the healing journey is experience misogyny, murder men, emotionally unravel, and then become queer. In this story, we follow Scarlett, who is an English professor who is not just grading essays. She's hunting predatory men on campus and disposing of them like overdue library books. That's actually not a good metaphor. Please don't dispose of your library books. Put them back in the bin at the library so somebody else can read them. And at the same time, it's a dual timeline. We are also following a student named Carly. She's navigating girlhood, trauma, and anger in the same environment that Scarlett is. And then their narratives eventually converge in a way that is meant to seem shocking, although I kind of did see it coming. Let's be honest, a lot of us pick up a female serial killer story for a reason. There's something deeply cathartic about it, about watching women take out men who abuse their power, other people, especially in worlds like academia, where real-world consequences often don't happen. The kill scenes are quick and direct and satisfying. The pacing is mostly snappy, the tension is pretty solid throughout, and the dual POV structure keeps things moving so you don't ever get too bored. I did read through this pretty fast. I did have a couple, just one more page moments when I should have been doing something else. But Scarlett's arc sits in an awkward middle ground. The story can't decide if she's a woman shaped by trauma, who snapped and turned to vigilante justice, or if she's a true psychopath that just craves killing. Those are two wildly different archetypes with different thematic purposes, and the book doesn't commit to either. So instead of feeling layered, sometimes she just feels conceptually inconsistent. Because if it's trauma-fueled justice, explore that. If it's serial killer bloodlust, own it. But splitting the difference, it made her feel more like a vehicle for a message than a fully formed psychological character. One of the book's central arguments is that predatory behavior is systemic, not just a few bad apples situation. And that's valid and necessary commentary. But portraying every single male character as a blatant eventual predator, except for a conveniently harmless gay couple, risks reinforcing a flat stereotype rather than adding nuance. Yes, men can be dangerous, and yes, entitlement is cultural, but stripping all male characters of depth really undermines the realism of the threat. Sometimes the scariest dangers are the subtle, charismatic, socially respected ones. And I kind of wanted more of that quiet horror instead of a lineup of human red flags. And let's talk about the romantic twist. I love sapphic representation when it feels emotionally rooted, character-driven, and thematically tied. Here it shows up paired with psychological unraveling and blurred identity and trauma. And when queerness is introduced after or during an emotional breakdown, without real groundwork, it can unintentionally read like she's spiraling mentally, now she's gay. And I feel like that's a harmful narrative pattern, even if it's unintended. I'm not saying that's what the author meant, but intention and impact are not the same thing. The connection between rage and shifting sexuality wasn't deeply explored, so it didn't feel earned. Just like a plot device. Personally, I'm begging for one female revenge arc where the protagonist kills bad men and then moves to a quiet cabin with tea, journals, and a total absence of romantic subplots completely. Growth via isolation rather than romance. Please. I get that romantic relationships sometimes move things along, but when they're not integral to the story, why bother? This book works best when it's read as a dark fantasy, not psychological realism, if you ask me. It's not about the truth of violence, but the fantasy of retribution. This review is kind of all over the place, and I am maybe a little sorry about that, but I hope that you find something. And if you want to continue to spiral about, why do I always do that? If you want to continue to spiral about books with me, some horror, some female rage, I'm all over the place in my reading, just as I was with this review, please subscribe and chat with me in the comments. I want to know if you've read this and what your thoughts are.